good evening, based on wherever you're joining us from. And I am going to just take a second and make sure that I can see all the comments coming in. All right. Um, Great. Let's dive right into it. So, this is Salesforce plus AI, and how can you automate your sales and service cloud? Let's talk about the agenda a little bit. This is a real live demo. We are going to show a ton of things today, and let's start with screen share. Sorry about that. Um, all right, so we are going to share a ton of things today, and one of them is going to be talking about your customers' challenges today with generative AI. We will also talk about what you can do with generative AI, particularly leads. How can you write custom emails? We'll talk about opportunity and deal coach, account 360, Einstein chatbot with communities, case and intelligent routing, AI driven use cases for case resolution, resources, and next steps. I'm seeing a lot of comments around not able to hear me. Can someone just confirm if you can hear me now? I'm so sorry. I apologize. Bear with me. I hope this is working. And if it's not, you can just write it in the comments. Okay, great. Let's dive right into this further. So, my name is Saurabh. Apologies for all the confusion. I'm the co founder of GPT-5 and Cloud Compliance, ex Salesforce, enterprise architect by trade, based in Chicago. And this is about what you can do with Salesforce and AI, what kind of use cases you can deliver on. And we've built a product called GPT-5 for App Exchange, and we'll show you what you can do with some of that or even otherwise. And the whole idea is how can you deliver Salesforce and AI very compellingly with clicks, securely, and literally in a matter of hours and days. So with that, let's jump into what is the problem today. The problem today is very eloquently articulated by Salesforce. uh, your sales rep are spending a lot of time doing everything else but selling, and the unfortunate part is because they do have to do things like pipeline review meetings with their bosses. They have to tell what happened to this account, what happened to this opportunity, and what's going on here, and what were the next set of activities I'm going to do, and what is the objection of the customer. So there is all this grunt work that our salespeople are just bogged down by. And it's the same with service. If you are in service, it's just become really soul sucking to constantly keep on trying to do that. So really, the idea is how do we apply things like generative AI and solve some of these problems? So we looked at that, and we all know that AI can help us do more with less. But the idea is how do you do this without distractions? So if you think about generative AI, the Chat GPTs, the Claude, Google Geminis of the world, the idea is that they can automate a bunch of repetitive tasks. They can summarize unstructured data, so information, case comments, meeting notes, emails that you may have logged, those kind of things. And they are really good at processing data out of text and files. So if you have files and attachments, you can pull insights out of that. So we wanted to see what we can do that can be as interesting as ChatGPT and the others in that space, but very geared to your and your customers' needs. So with that in mind, we wanted to pursue this further. So we go, oh, this is easy. Let's look at a customer life cycle. So what you're seeing here is a very classic B2B life cycle. There is some variant of it which you would do in a B2C environment. The idea is really simple. You have an outreach, your business development people, account execs, sales people, events that you're doing like this one. You have an outreach, you do demo of your product, you may have proposals, there's some negotiation, onboarding, customer success support, and renewal, right? The hope is works and works like a well-oiled machine. And that is the beauty of bringing Salesforce, Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, things like that. And everything you see down here are some of the use cases. So whether it's writing emails, doing white space analysis, doing opportunity summarization, account summarization, all of these things are use cases that today happen manually in almost every company in the world. Think about it. Everything here, by and large, happens manually, no matter how much technology you have. And generative AI helps us solve that. And that's one of the things that we have been after. And I have one or two more slides, and I promise you, we will spend the bulk of time today just demoing the heck out of Salesforce and see what we can do with it, right? So these are the things. Super awesome. Sounds extremely interesting, right? Oh my gosh, this is great. I will take it now. But the challenge with this is most customers that I've spoken with find AI complicated, they find it expensive, there are security concerns, and really they're still trying to figure out how do I bring AI to Salesforce. I don't want to, buy a huge number of licenses. I don't want to invest significantly in data infrastructure. I like my consulting partners, but I don't want to spend a ton of consulting dollars, build some legacy code that then I have to manage and maintain. And a lot of good, promising things I hear about AI are somewhere out in the future. They're all on roadmap. Everybody's selling you a roadmap of like, this is awesome. It's coming in next release. But what is available, what is real, and what can you actually do with it without spending an arm and a leg? What is it that you can go back to your office Monday morning and have something to show to your teams, to your clients, to your bosses, to your management in a few hours, in a few days, in a few weeks, right? What real world problem are we going to be able to solve with this? And we looked at this question of, is there a better way to do this? And we have looked at this question for the last 15, 16 months. So what I'm going to show you is another approach to solving some of these problems. So here goes. We think of the whole AI and Salesforce as the Panama Canal or the Suez Canal, or any of the bridges that you can think of that join two disparate sources, right? So you have your CRM here, you have your AI here, and today you literally have to cross this entire continent because that's what it is. You have to spend a huge amount of money, you have to train people, your users have to probably understand some prompt engineering, what kind of questions do they have to ask, all of that stuff. How do you get out of that? How do you make it? So there's a comment in this question around, is this about product or about knowledge on AI and Salesforce, that Santanu asked. So Santanu, I'll address your question directly. Yes, I'm going to show you AI. Give me one more minute. So how do you get out of this and actually address this and do this really, really quickly? So that is the challenge that we need to solve. You can solve it with a product like ours. You can build it yourself. But the whole approach is to look at a bring your own model. So how can you enable AI? And how can you do a better job of prompt engineering? How can you drive usability and adoption? How can you enforce security and privacy policies? How can you enable AI across the enterprise? And what are the possibilities that we can do with this? So without further ado, let's talk about what's possible. I'm going to show you about 4 or 5 demos, and time permitting and based on your comments, we may go a little bit longer on these, or we will switch over and get into some Q&A. I do have a few resources that may be useful, so stick around for that. All right, with that out of the way, let's look at a demo. So here I am on an email. Here I am on a lead, I'm sorry, and I need to send an email to this gentleman, right? I am going to basically look at this lead. It's just an inquiry that came in. Let's assume for a minute that we manufacture specialty glass or some sort of industrial, materials, right? And this lead filled a lead form, and they're like, "Hey, we are looking for some sort of a specialized toughened glass because we want to put it in submarines or submersibles for a naval customer," right? And they have very kind of specific things they are looking for. Now, this is a lead that comes to a sales guy. And today, what happens is I'm going to have to manually type an email for this, right? Um, what I'm going to show you is how generative AI can be applied. So, this little thing here is what we built. And the idea is you can pick a prompt here, and these are pre-configured prompts. So I'll just ask AI to draft me an email. And what we are doing now is that we are going to extract information out of this lead and any other related records, parent child, grandchild, whatever. So activities related with it. If I'm on case comments, if I'm in account related opportunities, cases, case comments, tasks, whatever, standard custom objects, all of that. And so what we have done here is we've pulled all this information, passed it through a trust layer, masked out stuff that we needed to mask, send it to AI. And this is the response that AI gave us back. So what you're looking at here is completely AI generated response. There are a few things that are interesting. Hey, you can see that it is, addressed to this person, and it has the context. It knows, hey, you're looking for this. And so we've kind of added all that stuff. That's great, but I don't like AI generated emails. I want it to have my context. It needs to be a Saurabh email, right? It needs to be an email from the people who are actually to send it. And I have some specific things I want to add. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say, hey, for this customer, for this prospect, let them know our glass is used by, some really big names, by NASA, ONGC, somebody else, and also ask for a meeting on Wednesday at 3 p.m. And now what I'm doing is, now I'm able to click on this, and essentially you're able to pull all the information from the lead, take this information in addition, and basically I am doing a little bit of prompt injection. And so now your generative AI gets additional information along with this data. And what it can do is it can start to actually craft an email that is extremely specific, right? So it has all the information that we talked about here. It is also weaved in the comment that I made earlier around asking for a meeting. And that is a key aspect when you think about generative AI. You want to think about Gen AI in terms of one, what it can do for your organization, and two, in terms of how you can leverage it not only to do some generic run of the mill packaged write and email stuff, but also with the end user's input, which is one of the key areas. So that is the first example of how you can apply generative AI. The second example is this brand new thing that we are looking at, and I'm really excited about it. And it is one of the toughest problems that you are going to see, that a lot of companies have tried to solve and haven't been able to solve. And that is the idea of a deal coach or a sales coach. So here is the problem. In every company, there is a rock star. That person has a way of selling. This person understands, or a group of people, and they understand how to sell whatever their product is. They sell based on the stage, they sell based on the customer's industry, they sell based on the amount, the dollar amount in an opportunity, they may sell based on other best practices. And the challenge for most companies is, how do I teach these best practices to new sales reps who are coming in? How do I teach these best practices to the struggling sales reps? Today, everywhere in the world, there are really two ways of doing it. One, their manager or some sales consultant comes in and they are going to basically educate, right? They're going to say, hey, let me spend some time with you, right? But as your organization grows and scales, this is a significant business problem, right? Your sales managers are spending so much time trying to educate people on doing things like these. So how do you address this problem? How do you enforce a framework that can look at activities in real time on an opportunity and actually offer specific guidance? So this is an example, deal coach framework that we created. And the idea is that based on every sales stage, you may have specific things based on the industry, based on the role. You're trying to sell $1 million deal and your guy is talking with an intern. Well, that's not going to do it, right? So when you think about things like these, right, for every one of these sales stage, I may have specifics to look at. Before generative AI came onto the fore, you could not do this. There was no way to do it. You can write as much Apex as you like, you can write as many rules as you want, but you really can't do these kind of things, right? And you can have really sophisticated logic. This is very simplistic, but you can have very sophisticated logic. You may have a different way to sell to a technically savvy customer versus a not so savvy customer. So how would this work? I'm going to show you a quick example of that. So I'm on an opportunity, and on this opportunity, there is a bunch of contacts. There is a bunch of activities here, right? And these activities are like, hey, I had a meeting with this. This is what was discussed, whatever, right? So I have a bunch of things like these on this opportunity. Very sort of a typical opportunity. And I'm going to show you an AI prompt that you can actually use and incorporate a lot of the kind of logic that we talked about. So this is very interesting and actually something that's really never been done before prior to AI. Everything else was a lot of guesswork. So I run this, and what you will see is when this prompt executes, GPT-5 is taking all of this data, the opportunity data, the related activities, all of the contact, opportunity contact, all of that stuff. It's sending it to AI. And what AI is doing is AI is looking at the rules and it's saying, well, you haven't scheduled a meeting with a decision maker based on the stage of the opportunity, right? There are some objections that somebody has raised, and it's saying, hey, you need to address these objections, and it's giving you why it is offering this advice. So it's a really interesting way for companies to distill all of the selling guidance that they want to incorporate and actually do this. So I'm going to take a few minutes and show you under the hood what's happening. So I'm going to click on this thing, and I'll show you what we call a security audit record. Okay. And basically, what you're seeing now is that I'm going against, in this case, Google AI. We can go against any AI. So you prefer Gemini, if you like Azure, OpenAI on Azure, if you like Bedrock, AWS, whatever, right? So this is my prompt, very plain English prompt with some, field names embedded in it. So this is stage name from opportunity. And so basically in this prompt, I have the same guidance. I'm saying, look, if this opportunity is in prospecting, evaluate the size and whatever, look at this, and this is the action item. If they haven't done it, ask them for it. So it's got all of this guidance baked in, and it's plain English. The beauty of this is that you can actually have BAs and sales operation people and all the specialists in this space in your industry, for in your customers organization, if you're in consulting, or for your employer. You can bring the best of sales brains and you can write as much of these rules as you want, because AI is significantly getting capable of addressing a lot of this information. This thing is called token size, right? Or token context size. So you can have as big of a context as you want, and you can write a lot of these things. If you want, you can write like 70 pages of this in a prompt. But the idea is that you're now able to put in a lot of this information. You may also give some examples of like, hey, if this happens, these are some examples of how you want the feedback to be given to the end user. And so you've got all of this information in the prompt. And then we are extracting this information from Salesforce in a JSON format, sending it to AI. AI evaluates it, comes back with a bunch of things. And essentially, you can then, you know, extract this. GPT-5 is showing this. That's what we were looking at on this view here. And we can update it, fields with it. You can run flows, do whatever you like. So that is really a very interesting way to accelerate sales by bringing the best practices from inside your company, from third party consultants. Use whatever banked or whatever framework you want to use. And it's a great way to move things forward. So this is an example of how you can really integrate generative AI inside Salesforce and accelerate your sales cloud. So that's that. Give me a sec. I'm going to drink a glass of water. Please do put some comments in there if you have questions on everything that you're looking at. All right, moving on. So the next thing I want to show is again sort of very interesting, and it's also an opportunity, and it is a white space analysis. So let's say I'm pursuing an insurance company, right? And I'm trying to sell them something. I want to really know what's going on with them, right? Like, hey, how was their last quarter? Financial stuff. So I have the 10Q statement here for a sample company. It's Lemonade Insurance here in America. So this is their quarterly statement, right? It is 14 pages that I've taken out of it, and it talks about what they do, how they do, all that. I'm a sales guy. I'm not going to read this stuff, right? But I do want to know how they're doing so that when I have a conversation with them, I can position my conversation in line with this. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to parse my file here. All right, I see a comment from someone on zooming my screen. So Anirudh, I will do it now. I'm sorry. Okay, I hope this is clearer. Okay, so I zoomed in and I'll zoom every screen that you're going to talk about. Okay, So I'm going to do this. I have this prompt here, ask a question file, again, a prompt that we have created. I'm going to say, give me a summary of their results. I'm going to click this icon and I'm going to pull this file that is attached to this record. And now when I hit run GPT-5, what we are doing is we are sending this PDF file to an LLM. In this case, it's going to Microsoft Azure. And over there, basically, it's extracting all the information from the PDF, and then it's applying that prompt that I just sent. And it's basically going to, if everything works well, it will summarize that 14-page PDF, and it will give us back a set of, a summary of that. And the idea of doing these things is I can run white space analysis, right? So here is some key highlights of this company. And this is real stuff that AI is able to pull out of the PDF, right? So you can see how they did, it looks like their premiums decreased. So one of the thing here is, right, based on this, I can figure out, hey, they are actually doing somewhat better. So they have some decrease in losses, but they may be still sort of very conscious about saving costs, right? So when I pitch to them, I want to look at this and say, hey, I noticed your last quarter was like this, and here is my pitch, right? So the point is, you are now enabling your salespeople to be far more intelligent about this, to be far more savvy about their customer, and they can know these things. And we have all of this automated. So you can actually set this set for every opportunity. You can automatically run stuff like this. You can run our prompts and populate information like this. So the idea is we are taking all that grunt work that a sales rep would have spent kind of looking at this and figuring out what's going on or reading those 14 or 60 pages of documents. You can actually eliminate so much of that. So you think about it from an RFP perspective, right? A customer says, here is a Word document of RFP. Here is a master service agreement. Here is an end user licensing agreement. So things like that, right? So those are some of the things where the possibility with this is really endless. I noticed Ashu asked this question about security in this, and I'm going to talk about security in a little bit, Ashu. So hold on to that question for sure. That's a really good question. So anyway, that's on files. You can do this with PDFs, Word documents, Excel, CSVs, text files, stuff like that. All right. So let me now show you yet another demo. And this time I'm actually going against automotive cloud. Okay. Because the idea is, what we've built works across any of the core platforms. So health cloud, nonprofit, higher education cloud, any industries cloud, sales cloud, service cloud, you can apply this anywhere. And the beauty of Salesforce is because of how they have architected all of this, it makes it super easy for us to actually be able to do that. It also makes really easy for you if you work for a large enterprise, and if they have a whole bunch of different instances of Salesforce orgs, a mix of industries, which a lot of customers do, then you can leverage the same skill set of prompt writing and things like that everywhere. So on this one, I'm going to do an account 360, right? And what I'm going to do is I want to see information about this account, all the related opportunities, and other sort of useful things. And the key here is that this is the stuff that companies do today, right? But they do it in person. So there is a manager who sits in a Zoom call with a whole bunch of people, and they are having this conversation around, hey, what's going on with that deal? What's happening with that account, right? And I have worked at places, I have seen companies where sales reps spend time actually building PowerPoints, actually summarizing these deals. They spend a lot of time for pipeline review. And the truth is, that is still very, very valuable. All we are doing is we want to reduce the amount of time these people are spending, right? I can actually take this information, I can click on this button and put it in an email, right? I can actually, basically, it'll just pop up the Salesforce email dialog box here, right? I can actually create a task out of it if I so wanted, right? And it'll put all the information in the task comments. I can copy it on my clipboard, paste it somewhere else, and use it. Again, every time what you're looking at is, how do I look at all the stuff that my sales guys are doing and reduce the grunt work that they have to do, all the manual stuff that they have to do that doesn't add value. I want my sales rep to spend more time with customers, less time in these clerical things. And that is what AI lets you do. And that is the promise of AI that I think everyone on this call, the one thing I want you to take away from this call, this whole event, is the possibilities with AI. Literally, we are limited by our own creativity, our own innovation, and thinking around this. So anything that you can think is quite literally possible now. And it is really up to us to make sure that we are spending the time and the effort figuring out those good business use cases where you have a lot of unstructured data that you can leverage, and where there is a lot of business value in enabling your sales and support. So we've been talking about sales and sales cloud for a long time. I want to switch over and talk about support and show you some interesting things from a support standpoint. So I'm going to show you something in communities here. So I'm going to close this chat and just refresh this. So I'm in a communities and I have Einstein chatbot running there, correct? A very sort of standard thing. You can run an Einstein chatbot and it'll give you a bunch of options. It's got like a menu in the background. It can kind of look at things, and using some of those, it is able to actually give you responses. The challenge is in three areas here. The first challenge is I want the response to actually look at my website, my internal documents, and I also wanted to look at my PDF documents and other things. So my repository of knowledge is all over the place. And what I want to do is when I ask questions, I want it to actually address those questions based on all the knowledge this thing can have access to. So I'm going to go here and ask it a question about GPT-5. I use flows like GPT-5, right? So that's the question I'm asking. And I could be just like a regular visitor. I'm just asking it questions and I'm hoping that it can give me an answer. So what it did now is it actually gave me a link to a PDF because it's scanning those PDFs. I'm like, okay, this is great. I have another question. How can I import AI prompts? So I'm asking another question. And now what's happening with each of these is Einstein chatbot is integrated in this case with the AI, and it is integrated with what's known as a RAG pattern, right? So I have a retrieval augmented generation pattern. Think of it as a combination of a search engine and AI so that it can have a conversational response. So what happened here is I asked the question, Einstein chatbot redirected it to my AI and my RAG in the background, and it has actually responded back. But what you notice now is that it has actually given me a link to my website, right? So if I click on this, it will now take you to my knowledge base, right? And you can see how you migrate or whatever, right? The point is this answer came completely from AI, right? There is zero involvement of any agent here. And this is not just a search, this is an intelligent conversational response. What do I mean by that? I'm going to say, can you give me this response in Spanish, right? And the idea is that it has context. It knows when I say this, what I mean, and it can respond back in Spanish. Well, clearly in this case, it did not. Uh, so hey, that's what happens on real live demos. I am going to say, okay, I don't care. Just redirect me to an agent. And obviously, in this case, there is no agent. But the idea is that you can refine these AI and these sort of generative capabilities to a level where they can respond, and you can dramatically reduce your costs in terms of support. So let's do one more thing now. This is great. I had some conversation and all of that, right? I'm going to close this chat. Now what? Right? So if you're an organization and you have these chats happening, this may be happening thousands of time in a day. Nobody's got time to look at chat transcripts. The bigger problem is you don't even know if this conversation went well or not, right? If I was super upset or not. So now what you can do is I'm going to go here in my Salesforce. I'm going to refresh this. So this is my Salesforce on which this community site is hosted, and I'm going to look at chat transcripts, right? And so what you will see is now I can go to this chat transcript, And the idea is that Salesforce has this transcript here at the bottom, right? These are the questions we were asking it. And what GPT-5 did is it actually automatically generated a summary of this transcript, right? It's got some information, but the key is that it actually generated what did the visitor ask. And it could have been a really long chat transcript, and you've got an automated summary. You can also extract specific information from it. You can configure a prompt where you can say, hey, if somebody uses this, or this word, right? If they use a profanity, if they if they are cursing, right, you can actually put stuff like that and extract out keywords if you care for them, right? If they say your competitor's name and they're like, this is ridiculous, right? Assume you're in airlines and they're saying, well, Air India, I'm getting a cheaper ticket on Indigo for the same flight, or whatever it is. I'm just using that as an example. But the idea is you can actually, in a conversation, pull these kind of chatbot results, and you can let AI extract and give you specific keywords that you can populate on records, that you can feed to your BI, that you can build flows upon. So that's one thing you can do. The other interesting thing is it's got a sentiment. If I was really angry and if I was chatting in uppercase, if I was yelling at this thing, if I was saying what the hell or some other flowery language, AI will actually be able to identify that and it can put a sentiment on it. So if the sentiment was negative, this is a field on a record. You can fire a flow. You can escalate this. Somebody can and actually reach out to that person if they were logged in, right? Or if they left an email address. We also support what I won't be able to show you today. We also support a logged in user experience. So if you were logged in here, as a community user, you could have asked questions from AI, and AI would have actually looked at data related to you inside Salesforce and answered those questions. And again, we have built a ton of security around all of this. So definitely, it's not something that you can kind of get around. But the point is, using a combination of existing Einstein chatbot, if you have invested in that, and the intents and the utterance and all of that, you can turbocharge it with AI and with RAG. And by doing a combination of this, you can effectively improve the end customer experience. You can give them a conversational response if you want to support a multilingual environment. Maybe you're a global company, maybe you have a lot of presence in Europe and you need to do Spanish, Italian, French, German, English, whatever, right? You're in Southeast Asia and you need to support a bunch of languages there. You're now able to actually use chatbots in a very, very conversational way. And you are able to pull data on me, and I can say, hey, assume I am a student at a university, and I'm going, when is my fees due, right? How much did I pay? What are my grades? You can actually have Einstein chatbot respond to that. And if we end up doing another demo, uh, we can actually definitely show you some of those things. So if you have specific industry specific use cases, put them in the comments for any of the demo that you've seen, and I'll try to see if we can come back and actually address them. So I'm just going to eyeball. There is like a question that just caught my eye that Sanjeev asked. Can the prompt escalate call to supervisor based on sentiment? Yes, absolutely, Sanjeev. Absolutely. Right now, in this particular case, it's a field, right, on the record. So you can definitely build any kind of escalation around it. The other interesting thing is actually AI can give you back an intent, right? So if you look at how in Einstein chatbot it works today, you have intents, right, and you have utterances. And what you can do is AI is actually really good. You don't have to put every utterance, right? You don't have to say agent, a representative, call center person, talk to a human. I don't need to write 50 variations and then say, hey, if any of these utterances are done by Einstein chatbot, send them to an agent. I have AI and AI can do that in like 7 different languages. So you absolutely have the ability to do these kind of things with it. All right. I want to show you one more demo, which I kind of really like. So this is again the idea that I have a case, right? And I'm going to show you two things on it. One, I'll show you an intelligent routing on it. And the second thing is I will show you case resolution. Again, this is connected to a RAG. So it will try and look at our website, somewhat similar to what you were looking at with the Einstein chatbot. Now, here is the thing that is interesting and why this is useful. If you're a company that uses email to case, it is incredibly hard to make sense of what somebody said. If I use web 2 case, I have a form. I can say pick something, right? You have to pick a product. What is your problem about? Is it technical? Is it billing? Is it administration, right? So you have the ability to really get very specific when it comes to cases, and you can then route, you can do all kind of thing. With email to case, you've got nothing. I can send you whatever in whatever language, and somebody has to actually manually read it to figure out what does this person want. And that's the problem that AI can solve for you. So I'm on this case. It just says, hey, how can I configure grounding rule for GPT-5? Let's assume it came through email to case. And what I want to do is I want to do some routing for it. So when I run this next prompt, which is my intelligent routing, what GPT-5 will do is it will pull this information, send it to AI, get back a response, and populate all of this information here, right? So let's run this and then see what actually happens. So I'm running this, same thing, extracting case, any related case comments or whatever else I have. And basically I got back this information, right? I got summary, sentiment, product, whatever. And what GPT-5 did is it populated all of this, right, on the case record. The interesting part, if you're a technology person in the room, the interesting part is we didn't write a trigger for this. We did not write a single line of code to do what we just showed you. It's 100% declarative. I'm going to show you how this works. It's very, very interesting. So I'm going to go to the security audit record for this, right? And so you can see I have a prompt here, and this is what we call a JSON prompt, right? Let's dive a little bit more into it and see what's actually happening. So this is my prompt. And what you see here is the data context mapping. So these are my objects, right? I'm saying on the case object, I'm picking 9 fields, right? So I can go here and say, pick these fields, right? I can add more fields. I can pick custom fields, whatever. I can mask these fields, right? So somebody had mentioned this question of security. I can absolutely do that. I can say here and say, hey, mask this entire value, mask these case numbers, for example, right? Mask these email addresses, which I'm already masking. So when I send this, contact email will be masked and it would just say removed one at remove.com. So AI still knows this is an email address. It just doesn't have a specific email address, right? So you're able to do things like that here. So that's what I'm doing on this thing here. I'm going to go back to where we were. So now I'm in the context mapping. So I'm sending case comment, stuff like this. I can also send other related objects. So again, I'm reading metadata. So any standard object, custom object, managed package objects, you can configure all this and you can send all of that information. That's great, right? So I did this. And essentially what we are doing is we are then able to automatically populate all of this information that you're looking here, right? All of this information is pulled from this prompt and it is populated on various fields here. So we have a lot of capabilities built into this just so that customers can do these kind of things easily. Let me go back to my case. So based on that, GPT-5 automatically populated this. This is great. And again, this can be fully automated, right? A case comes in through email to case. You can run it through a flow. You can run it through our batch processing. We call it mass processing. And basically, even before a rep looks at it, you can put all of this routing. Based on this routing, the case can be routed to whatever queue. So all your routing rules can work, right? And once you've done that, the other thing is I want resolution. So I'm now going to go and I'm going to run another prompt for resolution. And if everything works, fingers crossed, I'll have a resolution and it will also get populated here on this, right? So there. So I have a resolution that I got back from my RAG model, which you can see here. And GPT-5 automatically populated it here. And it also gave me a link. I can actually just send this as an email to the customer if I like it. Now, all of this could be 100% automated till this stage. A case may not even come to a support rep prior to this. So you may have email to case, you may be getting thousands or hundreds of thousands of emails and generating cases. And now what you can do is you are able to basically do the routing intelligently. You are able to put a proposed resolution. And now as a rep, I can look at this and I can go, well, this makes sense or this doesn't make sense. I may have a prompt here to basically just write an email for this, for example. And I didn't test this one, but right, the idea is that I can probably take all of this stuff and I can populate email subject, email body, and stuff like this. And based on that, I am then able to push it out and send an email to someone if it was so configured. right? So I have the ability, and here is an example of how, it's got all this stuff, it's pulled all the information, stick it in there along with the link, you're able to send it. So that is the beauty of all of this, right? I was able to go all the way from an Einstein chatbot to a case routing, case resolution, things like that. All right. Give me 2 minutes. I'm going to grab a little bit water and then I'm going to look through comments. I saw a ton of comments come through and I know there's a lot of questions. I definitely want to answer them. If you have more questions, definitely throw in there. All right. Thank you. I'm back. Let's see. I'm going to go up. Um, all right. So, Sanjeev asked, GDPR is a concern. RAG has to be more controlled in terms of PI data. So, Sanjeev, we mask a lot of information. Let me see if I have some place where I have it configured. If I have, I can show you. But I was showing that masking earlier. The idea is that we are able to pull it. It's not configured here, unfortunately. But the idea is that we mask a lot of information that's going. It is going to your LLM, so you can decide, how much you want to do there. Most LLMs today support data retention, so you can configure it to zero data retention. So literally, that information stays in your instance of LLM, your instance of OpenAI on Azure, your instance of Anthropic Cloud on AWS, your instance of Google Vertex or whatever you're using. It will stay there only for as long as it's getting processed. The other thing is, from a specifically GDPR perspective, you may have to enforce something around consent. Someone may have to check a box which says, hey, I consent for my data to be processed by AI. So that's great. If your customer, or if you decide to get that approval from the customer, a consent type box, we actually support those things. So we call them visibility conditions. You can actually put it, it's like, think of it as a where clause, right? So on the record itself, you can say, hey, for a record, if the AI processing checkbox is true, then only run this prompt. And um, GPT-5 is intelligent enough to do it only in only in those scenarios. So basically we support a lot of those kind of things. We have a whole set of capabilities built around, you know, uh, uh, mass processing, built around security layers, built around different AI models. So, an example is, you may want to have another thing related to GDPR and stuff like that, is you may have data residency requirements. You only want your users in Europe, their data to go to an LLM that's actually hosted in Europe. We support, bring your own model. You can connect prompts to different kind of models, and you're able to basically do that pretty much across the board. So that is the intention of all of this, that you are able to very, very quickly do these kind of things. We also support the idea of data retention. So if you need to basically ensure that what we are generating, the security audit records, they are deleted after a particular time inside Salesforce, you could set it up to delete after 2 weeks, 0 days, whatever you want. Okay. All right. I'm going to continue reading. I have IRS, which has data silo in multiple system. Integration is done in MuleSoft. How do I make that RAG enabled? Sanjeev, we should have a follow-up conversation. I can answer your question, but it's not going to be enough time for us to do that. So definitely, if you don't mind, set up some time. Would love to, have a deeper dive and a conversation on that. All right. For production instance, no is used. Can generative AI escalate? Yes, Kedar, to answer your question, yeah, we are doing a fair bit of work in that space. We support external data objects. So essentially, you can have something like this. So since you mentioned Snowflake specifically, we have customers who have data, third-party data, utilization data, our telematics, things, digital exhaust coming from various places. They're putting it in Snowflake. And if you use Lightning Connect, Salesforce Lightning Adapter for raw data, and pull it into Salesforce's external objects, we can consume it inside GPT-5. We support those kind of things. So hopefully that answers. Again, I know this is not enough time and probably not enough detail. Happy to have a conversation. Definitely, if you want, please book some time with me. Someone from my team would put my Calendly, would love to talk. I like technology conversations like this. All right. Are there other questions? I am still kind of, no, I think I'm on the top of this. I'm going to go back down and see if there are others. Will Murugan asked, once sent email, can we get response also to sales activity? Uh, I am not sure if I understand your question, Will Murugan. If you want to write some more about it, I'll be happy to answer that question. I'm not sure if I quite followed it just yet. My apologies on that. All right, so I want to show you one. I want to point you all to one resource. So we created this group on LinkedIn called Enterprise Dreaming. We did that event last year, and this is the Bitly link for it. And someone from my team will add it. But if you're on LinkedIn, I would encourage you to join it. We put some of these recordings there. We share some content there, and it just helps us keep the conversation going. So that's a great way for us to have a joint conversation. So one of the things that I just remembered someone had asked was around security. So I'm going to go and answer that question. I think Sushma had asked that. All right, let's talk about security. Um, so two things on security. One is we've done sort of the same thing that you've heard elsewhere around the trust layer. So basically, we do this. You have some records, we extract, we anonymize, so we will mask information. You can configure it to mask based on specific fields. You can configure it to mask based on patterns or regex. So you can say mask anything that looks like an email, that looks like an IP address, a MAC address, a social security number, an Aadhaar number, a phone number, whatever you want, all kind of regex. We ship the product with a bunch of them. You can add your own, right? And so we mask it, we send it to your AI. It could be OpenAI, it could be something else. We get back results. We re-inject any PII that needs to be injected. We present it to the users. We can also update fields. So it's a very sort of simple example of that. Um, I want to go back and show you just a little bit of that on the cockpit, right? So I'm actually going to go here and show you two things actually. So I was showing you data context mapping earlier. So you can definitely do some of these masking type things there. I am going to let it come. And so if I go on this record, like I was showing earlier, I can go to the fields on this object and I can mask them. I can go and say account name, mask this entire value, and I can say what do I want it to be called, right? I just want it to be called company one, for example. And so the product ships with a whole bunch of these things. We call them security layers. So these are some of the regex, right? Here's for Aadhaar, social security, stuff like this. And you can create your own. So if you have unique ways, if you're insurance, you have unique ways that policy numbers are written, right? You may say LIC dash 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, right? So you can create your own regex and mask those kind of things in whatever industry you are, whatever nuances. The third thing we do, which is very unique to us, is that we support a block list. So you can say anytime FBI is the word anywhere, mask it, right? You're a bank. You may say anytime someone, says KYC, anytime they say Aadhaar card, mask whatever comes there, right? Anytime someone says a word that you want to mask, you can basically do that. And everything I'm showing you works not only on regular fields, but we actually apply these all of these masking rules on your long text fields, right? So information that is going out that way, we are definitely able to mask that. Like I said, our DNA is data security. We've spent 5 years in this space building sandbox masking, data retention, all this GDPR stuff. So if there's one thing this product is extremely good at, it is security. And the other is everything I'm showing you is 100% declarative. So that is the other portion of it from a security standpoint. Another thing I want to show you, which is really useful if you are an enterprise architect or if you want to think about it broadly, and I think it may answer the question on Snowflake and I think something else that was asked around MuleSoft. Here is an example of how something like this fits in your enterprise, right? I have Salesforce and I have GPT-5, and from a security standpoint, they're running inside your Salesforce infrastructure. What this means is at no point of time, anybody from GPT-5 has access to your information. We don't run a data center. Your data never goes to us. Our people can't look into your org and see your data. We don't see it, right? 100% native. Everything is 100% native here. And then this in turn can connect with a RAG. It can connect with an LLM or AI model. It could be AWS, as it's shown on this diagram. It could have also been Google Cloud, Azure, and some of the demos I showed were with mostly Google Cloud and Azure today, right? And you may also have other external data, which is what I was showing earlier with Snowflake. You may also bring this from APIs. So if you have like third party data sources that you want to bring real time from APIs, so I'll show you that. So maybe before you send this data to AI, you want to look at the contact data and enrich it with some Dun and Bradstreet or some third party data provider. Or maybe you're sending account data and you want to enrich it with Bloomberg data or any of this. Or maybe you have your own third party systems that you want to call. So you can create your own third party data sources, and basically you can write some Apex code and you can enrich all this data before GPT-5 sends it to AI and gets you back a response. So you have a lot of capability in terms of bringing external data. And so that's on the API and third party website type stuff. You may have social feeds, and third party social data provider is a very common use case. And the other part of this is I have external data sources. As much as I love Salesforce, it may not be the center of the universe of my customers, right, or your company. So if you have third-party data sources, you can actually pull that data inside Salesforce using again OData, and we are working to support Data Cloud. So if you're using Data Cloud or this, you can pull this data inside Salesforce as external objects, data objects, and we anyway support standard and custom objects. So any of those objects, and then GPT-5, you can write a prompt in the mapping that I was showing earlier with case and case comments and stuff. I can have external objects, and then I can send this information to AI and bring it back. So essentially, when you think about what we are talking about from an enterprise architecture standpoint, it boils down to these three areas. Information that you want to bring into Salesforce, which is non-CRM data but useful to you, your Snowflake, your data infrastructure, investments, whatever, you're bringing that. What we are doing is we are giving you something that lets you focus on, or your customer focus on, doing better prompt engineering, doing security, doing compliance, right, retention, GDPR, multiple AI models, multi-layered masking, right, and integration with non-Salesforce data sources, automation to update fields. You can do mass processing, and we support this through mobile. We support it on communities. We support it on Gmail and Outlook plugins. So you can now distribute all this functionality everywhere without writing code for the most part, right? Unless you're calling APIs. And then on this front, you have your RAG or your AI, right? Which is kind of where you're doing file extraction, data extraction, or it's your open AIs, Anthropic Cloud, Amazon Bedrock, Google Vertex, the Cohere, right? Like that space is just constantly getting enriched, and you can go against multiple sources if you need to go. So that is really the bottom line. I know we are coming almost close to the end here. So this is really, I think, my last slide. I'm going to see if there are other questions that I haven't answered. So bear with me while I look at them. And please put any questions you have, anything we missed that you would like to see, any use cases that would be of interest. Definitely let us know. I am looking at this. Any other questions? So, Vail Murugan, I did not understand your question. Once sent email, can we get response also to sales activity? If you can answer, I'm happy to, if you can add more detail, I'm happy to try and answer that. Um, Sanjeev, I didn't understand I have IRS, which has data in silos in multiple system. Integration is done in MuleSoft. How do I make that data rag enabled? So yeah, sorry, Sanjeev, maybe I didn't follow this earlier. So we can consume data from external sources. In this case, from MuleSoft also. If there's an adapter or writing, like through the API data model that I was showing, so we can pull that data in, send it to AI along with data from Salesforce, if that's what you were asking. Let me keep going. Kedar, your question on production instance, nor is widely used. Can generation AI? Yeah, it can, Kedar, definitely. So what we are doing, the thing I love about Salesforce as a platform is that there is so much automation, right? Like what we are doing is basically bringing some of this value from AI inside Salesforce, but all the usual suspects are still there, right? You have the ability to write flows. So if you need to, invoke a flow from what we just did, I'm updating a record, you can invoke a flow and you can call an invocable, you can invoke Apex and, push something back to Snow if you want to. You can use platform events. And we support a lot of those things directly out of the box. and we are building constantly support for additional things there. Right. So as I was showing earlier, the other part from an automation standpoint is we do mass processing. So we are able to, you can apply this mass processing, and you can say, hey, anytime an account gets updated, go do this, right? Generate a meeting note. Anytime a meeting is scheduled, go back, look at all the related things, generate information, update on the meeting, record, on the activity record. So you're able to do so much of that, and for us to then push it to a third party system is not a problem. I'd love to have a deeper conversation, Kedar. If you're up for it, definitely reach out on the link that I sent. I am still looking if there are other comments. Oop, there's something new. All right. Can we leverage bulk query in prompt builder? So Sanjeev asked. Sanjeev, we actually solve that problem with AI mass processing, and I'll tell you why. One of the challenge with AI is that, think of AI not as BI, right? You don't want it to crunch millions of records. And that's why we do a lot of work with bulk query in sandbox data masking. We have a sandbox data masker that masks like a million records, an hour. So crazy speed. Like we do a lot of very, very high performance bulk API driven things. The challenge with AI is you want to think of AI as something where I'm sending it some amount of data, and that could be large amounts of data, but I want to get very sort of controlled responses back, right? So what we are doing with mass processing is sort of what you described in bulk query. So I'll give you the use case. Let's say the use case is I run this mass processing engine every 30 minutes, and all the cases that were closed in the last 30 minutes, it's going to pick them up. It's going to do a case summary. It's going to do a root cause analysis. It's going to do a sentiment on it, and that's it, right? So I have the ability to do those things through AI mass processing, which is effectively bulk Apex, batch Apex that is applied there. I hope this answers. Please add more comments if you have on that. All right. So Will Morgan said, sent mail if suppose reply that mail and can it be captured in Salesforce under record. So Will Morgan, if I understand you correctly, this is standard Salesforce, right? If I send a email out of Salesforce and someone responds back to it, Salesforce can automatically associate it, particularly like with cases and with leads. That is my understanding. uh, and from a GPT-5 perspective, I can totally send all the information to to AI, if that is what you were asking. So if I go here and find a case prompt, I probably have a lot of that kind of information that I'm sending. So if I go to case summary, maybe what you will see is I have case and case comments. So I can go here and I can add related object. So if there is an email history object or something, a case history, I can add that. So any email that is coming that way, email messages, right? I can add that. And basically, like literally, this is it, right? So any emails that are going to come in, I can go and say, hey, on this, here are I want you to send these fields, right? So I'm going to send the email, maybe message ID. I like IDs. I'm going to send the message name if I care about it, the from address if I want to, if not, I don't care. Maybe the HTML body, right? Maybe the subject. That's it. I am going to save this. I'm done, right? Next time when we run this prompt, it will send this information with it. And I can apply, if I go here and I hit reconfigure, I can apply a where clause. I can say only send it where email message is equal to whatever, right? Or I can do that for case comment and things like that. So I hope that answers the question. Um, and I think you said something like need to configure some custom objects. Sure, configure them, Will Murugan. We support custom objects. So if I hope I'm understanding your question, but we are able to pull custom objects in here. I don't know if this org has any, but if it did, it'll show up here. So yeah. All right. So Sanjeev said, so sequencing of such mass processes matter. Yeah, it does, Sanjeev, depending on what you're trying to do. And we have, sequencing built into mass processing. Happy to get into more details on it. Most customers we work with like to start with the pie. Okay. Um, all right. What else? I can trigger mail from Salesforce. So, okay. What are considerations prerequisite before implementing GPT-5 into any org? Saurabh asked this question. That's a great question, Saurabh. I'm going to show you a few resources. So this is our website, GPT-5. You can go here. You can go to guide, and we do free, trials. So you can definitely work with us on that front. So I have a ton of use cases for Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Health Cloud, financial services. I have an ROI analysis thing that you can leverage. And one of the thing here is Saurabh Ratan Parkhi, what you asked along those lines is navigating the future of AI. Right? This PDF actually talks about some of the considerations. Predominantly, the considerations boil down into a few different areas. One is, what are good use cases? You want to look for use cases which are high value to your company or to your customer if you're in consulting, and which don't have a lot of industry specific nuance. You want to start with more general purpose thing which AI is extremely good at doing, right? And so you want to do those kind of things. So like a data summarization, personalized emails, those are good use cases. What is poor use case is something that is very low volume, there is not much revenue, it happens manually. Even if your customer or your company wants to do this, do a pushback on it, because that is where you lose impact, right? Your company is spending money, somebody's investing in these projects, and then it's not enough value, not enough return on this investment. And I like to always think of it, and I'm sure my ex colleagues from my old colleagues from Salesforce and whoever else has worked on Salesforce knows what makes Salesforce so compelling and such an incredible platform is that you can very easily do a crawl, walk, run. That is, of all my career and all the technologies I've looked at, I so love Salesforce for the crawl, walk, run. And you always want to do this. You want to start with, we typically recommend our customers to start with 3 to 5 use cases. We work with them. We have an implementation team. In terms of prerequisites, we look at good business value that the customer can deliver. We look at presence of unstructured data. That is a key. If you have good unstructured data, then this works. And by using those two things, you are able to do it. So I hope this helps, Saurabh. Pratik asked, can GPT-5 work on Service Cloud, Manufacturing Cloud, and Field Service Lightning? Yes, Pratik, absolutely. Very happy to say that anything that's running on the core platform, we can run on it. We have built this entire thing to be very metadata oriented. You can run it against whatever you like. The other thing is, if you go on our website on gpt5.ai, you can look at some of these demos. We track everything. So actually, when you look at the prompts and some of the things we are doing there, on every prompt we track how much time we saved. So for somebody to go through all the records that we went through, those 14 pages of PDF, they would have spent 15, 20 minutes, at least 15 minutes, right? And by AI taking this, processing it, maybe it spent 3 minutes. So it comes back and it tells you, oh, I'm sorry, it's 1200 seconds. That's like 20 minutes. Yeah. So you saved someone 20 minutes, they would have spent reading 14 pages of financial reports, right? So we track these things, and then you can actually see that in an ROI dashboard. So basically, you are able to apply a lot of that kind of ROI type thing and say, hey, you're spending this money, you've bought this product, GPT-5 or whatever, you've configured it, you're paying for this, the all of this stuff, but here is the amount of time you're saving, here is the amount of money you're saving. So we are capturing all that. And Pratik, because we are so metadata oriented, we can run it on pretty much every flavor of Sales Cloud and sorry, every flavor of the Salesforce core platform. All industry clouds, all of typical sales service cloud, those kind of things. We run against communities, which I was showing with Einstein chatbot, things like that. All right, Sanjeev has a question. If lots of information is hiding in documents like white paper and this, and we want GPT to work in research on those and return next best action, I have this. Basically, what next research can be done? So, Sanjeev, my answer on this is twofold. One is, can you do stuff like this? Yes. Um, is this trying to be the be all end all for generative AI on 50,000 white papers? Probably not, right? The idea is that it is in context of Salesforce data, right? That is the value that you and I and people in the Salesforce ecosystem are providing. So if your customer says, "Hey, I am a medical device company, and I actually have some example here. I don't know if I still have it, right? So if I say I'm a med device company and I'm selling to John Hopkins medicine, right? I'm going to sell them some stuff, right? And I want to look at some white paper. I want to look at their specific requirements. I want to look at their tenders. I want to look at their financial reports. You can do those kind of things. If they are looking for something and you're saying, hey, I want to look at white papers and do some research, if it is in the context of some records here, great, you can. Like an example is adverse medical reaction that happens in pharmaceutical, medtech, and all these companies, right? If you have ADRs and they're getting reported inside Salesforce, and I know some customers do that, right? So people are saying, hey, I had this problem, I used this thing, I had this problem, right? I used your stent, I had this problem, I used something, I had this problem. So what is the next best action? So yes, you can do that kind of stuff. I'm creating a case for that in ADR. I can there's device log, maybe I have a PDF, maybe there is some reports that came in. You can process them. Uh, Customer wants to analyze their proprietary data and bring next best action. Absolutely, Sanjeev. If I'm understanding you correctly, this is very much in line with what we were talking with that deal coach. Let me see if it's in this. That is actually like the whole idea there is exactly that, right? Like this is all next best action here, all of this, right? You can then say, hey, look at this and do this. So this is I think what you can do across the board with this. And Pratik, you asked a question on AI driven codes. I don't have a demo to show you, Pratik, today, but if you reach out to me, I can definitely show you that. Because the thing is, I have opportunity products, I may have quote line item, and I have the ability to pull all this information together. I actually posted something on LinkedIn a while back, which was around, how you can, I think in future, CPQ type functionality will be baked in just like this, exactly like this, because at the end of the day, it's a bunch of rules, right? I can write rules after rules after rules for sales practice, for next best action that Sanjeev is talking about, for course if I so wanted. So I can send these things and say, hey, here is a recommendation for product. Because I know, right? If I'm on an account record, I know what this customer has, right? I'm on this record, I know what this customer has. And I can say, look at the assets that this customer has, and look at the activities we are doing, look at some their quarterly report, right? Let's say I'm selling to a bank or an insurance company, right? And they're saying we are doing big digital transformation in your Salesforce, right? You're going, okay, if they're doing digital transformation, we have a play, right? And I can look at their 10Q, I can look at what their CEO has said, I can actually run that against a against a prompt, and I can ask extremely specific questions. So if I go back to wherever my opportunities were, if I go back here and pull that lemonade insurance opportunity, uh, that is what I can do. I can ask questions specific to it, across records and across things like that. So anyway, I hope that answers that question. um, Pratik said it's not CPQ, but our quote calculation and product selection is not in SFDC. Is it possible? Yes, Pratik, it is possible. Two ways. One is external objects. If your other system is OData compliant, if it is not, then you can still do it through what we call API data sources. So I would go here on API data sources. I will create a data source for your code calculation and product selection if it is a service that I can go against, and I can basically call it through Apex, pull that information, send it to AI. And again, it's a question of figuring out what exactly are you trying to do, as Rahul correctly said in that comment earlier. Wow, we've gone about 13 minutes over, and I know we started a bit late. I'm really enjoying this, so happy to keep answering questions. If there are other questions, please do add here. If you have any feedback for us in terms of what else would you like to see, please do that. I have a poll, and I'm hoping someone from my team can maybe post a link here. If you can, tell us what would you like for us to cover next time. I would love for us to specifically address your questions. So if they are on a specific area, if you want to know more about RAG, if you want to know more about data cloud or data, if you want us to go into prompt writing, which I think is an area that a lot of people are interested in. So how do I write prompts, right? How do I write prompts so that they can generate nice formatted tables? How can I get information? How do I update fields, right? This is an example of that I can run. So we are happy to do those kind of things. We do a lot of them. Here is, like, I think a fancy version. I don't know if it's working. I'll show you if it does. So yeah, I mean, let us know if there is anything specific you would like to see in a future demo. And is it possible to plan a demo? Sure, Pratik. Just schedule some time with us, and happy to understand your specific requirements, and then see what we can do. Um, so Sheetal, all of our use cases, a lot of our use cases are on our website. If you go to guides, and I have these use cases. So for Sales Cloud, I have some. So you can definitely pull it right now. I am going to just put it in here. Um, and similarly for Service Cloud, I'm going to do that. Actually, I can just put a link to the guide here, and you can definitely get it from there. Oh, there is me, is it somebody else? Okay, right, of course. And right, all of our guides are here, so you can definitely do that. Lots of information there. Our data sheets are here, as I was saying earlier. There is an ROI calculator if you want to see like why should you do it. We did some math on it, and you can actually just get like a Google Sheet version of it. You can put your own numbers and run this thing and figure it out. Help your customers. This is something I really really like. Very very interesting. Um, so we have a lot of information like this. Another resource is our blogs that you can go to. We talk a lot about email to case, automation, prompt, and like a lot of things. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. And finally, as I mentioned, you can definitely go to our App Exchange listing and take a look at that. What we do, how we do. There are some reviews there, and we are working with a lot of customers across a variety of different industries. So very happy to have a more detailed conversation on it. All right, that's that's all I have. I hope this was useful. Please do continue to comment here if you have other things, and I'm happy for us to engage. I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn if you are on LinkedIn. Please do connect with me there, and let us know if you have other things. On that note, I think I'm gonna close it for the day. We went a little bit over. I really enjoyed it. I still see 148 people up there. Uh, okay, so I'll just maybe do a countdown. So the next, I'll count down to five, and then if there is something else, please type in here, comment, question, feedback, particularly questions if you have. One, two, three, four, five. Thank you so much, everyone. Really enjoyed it. Appreciate this event and your time today. Please reach out to us. Very very glad to be connected. Loved it.